Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the RepPath Podcast. Today we're going to talk about how do you know if you're going into a new position, if it's a gold mine or a trap. So many of us guys, I know we get so excited when we're in the interview. You just went through 5, 6, 7, 8 interviews with one company. You've interviewed with multiple companies, and now finally someone's ready to give you an offer. So you're all excited. You just want to take the offer and get the job. But you got to be doing your due diligence throughout the process to see, is this really a gold mine, or is this something that could be, jumping from the frying pan into the fire and it's a trap? So we're going to talk about that today. But before we get into it, as always, guys, some quick housekeeping. If you have any questions during this podcast, please make sure you're submitting it into the chat, and we'll address them about halfway through the show. As always, guys, because I keep seeing the same people over and over making the same mistakes, thinking things will change. I see a lot of you on LinkedIn. I see many of you that have been searching. You've been aspiring to medical sales reps now for months and months and months, and nothing is happening. Guys, we can help make that happen. Join the RepPath Academy. Go on my website, reppath.com, and please, or reach out to me and shoot me a DM, and we could set up a call so I could tell you more about the Academy. But we've helped individuals from all different industries, thousands of individuals all around the country. We do this every day, guys. We know the process. We know what it takes to stand out in this process so you can break into this industry. Can you figure it out by yourself? Absolutely, but it's hard. Let us help you. We've been doing this for years. So please go on the website. You can see the companies that we've helped place in the past. And then if you go at the bottom, you could also see some of those testimonials of reps who've been placed quickly using the RepPath Academy. Lastly, guys, if anybody wants to see a copy of this podcast or any other material that we produce, please go on my YouTube channel, the RepPath Academy, so you can join. It's 100% free. Just subscribe. So you could just click the link. Here's the Academy on the screen here. You could see all the different, we're coming out with content every day, guys. So go on there, RepPath Academy, subscribe, and you'll be able to get this and all other recordings that we produce. Okay, awesome. So let's jump right into it, guys. So like I said before, you just got an offer. You're all excited. You want to get this new job. You want to accept it. Before you dive right in, you have to make sure, is this the right fit? And are you jumping into a trap? Because guys, if you don't do your due diligence, it could be a nightmare. You don't want to get into an unwinnable territory. And many of us have been there. I've been there many times too. Sorry, let me just get this light off in the back. Sorry about that. Okay, cool. So
a little
you want to
behind
make
the scenes
sure
for everybody, Joe.
What's that?
A little behind the scenes sneak peek for everybody.
I know. Thank you. So anyway, you want to make sure that what you're getting into is the right fit for you. So we're going to go over some of the things that you want to ask when you're in this interview process. And a majority of managers, guys, they're not here to trick you. They want to be upfront with you, because the last thing they want to do is bullshit you during the interview process. So you sign up with them, you come on board. And then all that's going to happen is 2-3 months down the line, you're going to be pissed off and you're going to be looking for another job. That's the last thing hiring managers want. They're not here to trick you. If anything, they want to be upfront and weed out the people that really don't want this, because they don't want to replace you 3 months later. That's a nightmare. It costs the company money and nobody wins. So make sure you're going and asking these questions. And I'm going to give you a lot of great tips today. Some are a little bit more common that you might already know, but some you might not. So even if you pick up one tip today, guys, that can help you during this interview process, or one question that helps you decide, that can help you decide to take a job or not, trust me, it's worth it, because this is your career that we're talking about. You don't want to just dive right in because it's a medical sales job or because it has a big company name. Guys, you need to know what you're getting involved in. Okay, so let's go over some points here. So let's start with the first simple question. Why is the territory open? I mean, that's a valid question that should be asked on every interview, guys. When you get into this, why is it open? Now, of course, we want to see some of the red flags. if someone left, why did they leave? Now, sometimes people can leave, which is fine. They can leave for a better opportunity. They can leave for, a higher paying job. Maybe they got promoted with another company. You don't know, but you have to ask. So if someone left, okay, I would also ask, how long were they here? Because if they were here 6 months, they left, how long was the previous person here? If they were here 6 months too, guys, that's a huge red flag. So ask them, what is the territory history? How long was the previous person here? If they say 5 years and they found another job, okay, that's a pretty good sign. But if they say 6 months and the person for them was only here 6 months too, huge red flag, guys. That means what they're selling you. Don't have that optimism and think you're going to be super rep to overcome all these challenges. I'm not saying just because of that point, there's 2 reps 6 months in a row, 6 months each, that it's time to not accept the offer. But you got to that's a red flag. So you want to keep asking more questions, what we're going to get into. But that is a sign right off the bat that this might not be the right opportunity. It could be the flip side of this. Someone left, typically, they could have gotten promoted. Now, ideally, during the interview process, if that person got promoted at that company, that is the person you must speak with, before you accept a job. Number one, you want to know the insights of what their experiences are and all that, of course, what the challenges are, but what's really going on in that territory. I mean, that individual should give you a real in-depth analysis of what's going on. And that's so important. And we're going to talk about some of those points. But if someone was promoted and they're currently at the company, that's someone that's a very good sign typically, because that means that not only did they do well in that position, but they stayed at the company. So that means they're happy with this company. They didn't just take another job somewhere else to get promoted somewhere else, which isn't that easy to do anyway, but they stayed on with the company. So that's ideal. And that's very strong to have that individual who's still going to be there that can help, guide you once you're hired to help, overcome some of those obstacles that you're going to face. And then, excuse me, or here's another question. Was the territory split? This is very common, especially in medical sales roles. So typically, and this is where you have to ask the right questions. They could split a territory in 2. Okay. Rep's been there 5-6 years, totally crushing the number. This guy is blowing it out. He's got a $5-6 million territory, can't handle covering this whole territory because he's got too much business going on. So typically they're going to split it. That doesn't mean they're going to split it evenly. And odds are they're not splitting it evenly because they want to reward. And don't forget, this person put in all this hard work. They're sitting here going, you got to be kidding me if you think I'm going to give up, Einstein, NYU, UPenn, whatever, all these hospitals. You think I'm giving all those up? You're crazy. They're going to fight for their accounts, guys. And then they're also going to typically give them their top accounts. So it could be split in 2 and be a drastic split of 90% of the business to that previous rep. And you're basically starting from scratch. So when you ask, is this a split territory? You want to find out how much of the business was actually split, because that's very important. Sometimes they do try to split it pretty evenly, but a lot of times they're going to reward that rep and then take the further accounts or the lower volume accounts and look to make another territory because they have enough business to justify to hire a new rep on. So you must find out, was it an even split and how is the business differed between the 2 new territories? So yeah. And then lastly, as always, guys, like I said, is this a backfill or is this an expansion territory? If it's an expansion territory, obviously that's more positive. Means the company's growing, means that they have enough business to justify that new account. If it's a backfill, that's the questions that brings up all those questions we asked at the beginning. So you want to make sure you're doing your due diligence, asking that when you start. Okay. So next, guys, when you're analyzing your new territory, you don't want to confuse market size with accessibility. Okay. Big difference. A lot of times companies, they sell you a bill of goods and they'll say, oh, you're going to have so much opportunity. You're going to get the whole Northeast. And that sounds great. And this happened to me years ago with an opportunity up in the New England area that I was going to take as a regional sales manager. The company, very well-known company, one of the top companies. Everyone knows the name. Obviously, I'm not going to repeat the name on the podcast, but they had an open territory throughout New England based in Boston. I was actually going to move up to Boston and take this role. And the hiring manager was very upfront with me. He told me, yeah, it's got huge territory, a lot of potential. And then when I spoke to the reps throughout the process and other individuals that were in the know about what's going on in that area, contracting was a major issue. They were shut out of 80% of the accounts because of contracts. So that means other companies are already in there for a majority of these hospital systems that they were locked into contracts for at least the next 3 years. Guys, you can't overcome that. I don't care how good you are. Don't think you're going to come in and be like, oh, this rep is so good, we're going to rip up those contracts and all of a sudden give all the business to Joe. I didn't take the role because of that. Now, I didn't find this out on day one. Obviously, it took some due diligence. But when you looked at it, well-known company, one of the best, great products, everything phenomenal. And other regions were doing really well. This region, because of contracting, was shut out of business from 80% of the opportunities out there. So it seemed like a large area, but at the end of the day, it means nothing if the contracts aren't giving you access to the physicians and the product. If you can't sell to them, if they love your product, but they go, Joe, I can't use you. We have a contract with XYZ company or these other companies, for the next couple of years. Guys, you're not going to overcome that. So don't confuse the market size with access. Because, and then another time, other opportunities, sorry guys, some territories are also full of well-known accounts and they are the accounts already, one of the accounts could be, multiple accounts could be under one IDN. So you can have literally 30, 40 hospitals under an IDN that isn't using you, or even worse, your company is not part of the GPO that a lot of these hospitals are associated with. So your product is not available. For instance, I had this once too, where in New Jersey accounts, there's a lot of HPG. That's the name of the GPO. Okay. And the GPO is a group purchasing organization for a lot of you guys out there that don't know what that is. So most of them were under HPG. Okay. And we were on the GPO of Premier, but we weren't on HPG. So throughout New York and other areas, a lot of Premier. So the reps in those areas were doing really well. The reps in New Jersey, there was no business. And I was always wondering, hey, but I have all the relationships here. I'm going to be able to break in. This is no problem for me. Guys, it was a nightmare because most of these doctors I was very close with, had years of relationships with. We're on a first name basis. Joe, I love your product. Can't use you. The hospital won't let me order this. Purchasing department, Joe, get on the GPO and then we'll be able to, move forward. So you want to realize, number one, guys, that this is another example that you're not going to be able to overcome it. And you also got to really find out from the company where you are with getting on the GPO, because those things don't just happen overnight. A lot of the bigger companies have teams that are their GPO teams, their managed care teams. They're going to go in there, manage markets. They go in there and they meet with the GPOs. And this happens, it takes months, sometimes a couple of years for them to get on that GPO. So you want to find out if they're not on the GPO. That doesn't mean 100% just get out of there, that you're not going to accept the job. Do some more due diligence. Where are they? Do they anticipate being on, approved within the next couple months? And again, at the end of the day, guys, you still have to take a chance. There's never going to be 100%, guarantee that this is going to be a great job. At the end, you got to, weigh out the pros and cons and then either take a chance taking the job or not. But this is the information that you want to find out. Okay. So it's very important. The accessibility to product is everything. Don't just go by the size of the territory. So Next, the quota to opportunity ratio. So you want to make sure that the territory becomes, very valuable when the quota is built from it's dangerous area to be in when a quota is built from hope and not history. So a lot of times you could get, say, for instance, well, Joe, this is a $5 million quota in this territory. And you think, wow, that's great. You start doing the math in your head. You go, wow, I can make a couple $100,000 a year or more if I'm hitting my quota. Okay, well, what's the history? That's the important thing. Did anyone even come close to doing 5 million in a year? Because a lot of companies, guys, that's why these openings happen. They are given new goals. Some of them, again, they have investors, they have, venture capitalists, they have different groups that are putting money in. They're supposed to hit certain quotas by a certain timeline. And all of a sudden you could see your $1 million quota go up to 3 million just like that. And a lot of the reps, they have the conversations with the managers, like, I can never hit that. It's just not going to happen in the next year. And then they jump ship. And then they tell you this is a $3 million quota or $5 million quota that you're carrying. You could think that's great, but you need to know the history. Has anyone even come close to that? Because that's very important. Also, what percentage of reps are hitting quota? That's also important. We always want to measure ourselves against the top reps. And that's great. You don't want to come into interviews and ask about who are the lower reps or the average reps, but it is important to find out what percentage of reps are actually hitting quota. And if it's a low percentage, guys, again, don't think you're Superman and because you're such a great rep, you're going to overcome that. You have to be realistic. You have to find out why. If less than half the company is hitting quota, that's a red flag. Why is that? Are all the reps that bad? No. It's more often than not, there's some other obstacle that's in the way why they can't hit the quota. So don't go by the hope, go by the history. So here's some questions to ask. What was last year's quota and the attainment the attainment in this territory? So if you have a rep that was at say a $2 million quota and they're at 90, 95%, 96%, even in the 80s, okay, that's something to work with. But if there's the previous rep, the past 2 years was at 30%, 40%, again, it could be a poor rep, it could be a bad hire, but a lot of times it's not, guys. I would say in my experiences, usually when it's poor quota attainment, I would always, lean on the side of what's going on with this quota. Is it that far out of reach? Don't always think the last rep sucked, and this is where you got to read between the lines and again, dig deeper because sometimes companies like to do that. Be like, hey, this previous rep didn't do a good job. That's why they're no longer here. That's why we're looking to find individuals like you, and they make you feel good. And you feel like, oh, wow, I could turn this around. Again, dig deeper. So what did the prior rep finish at? So like we were saying, what percentages, how many reps hit quota in comparable territories? Again, like we were talking about, what percentage of reps are actually hitting these quotas? Is quota based on actually territory history or national top-down growth accounts? So, and then the last one, how long is the sales cycle relative to the ramp period? That's very important, especially if you're in the hospital space. You need to set expectations with your hiring manager before you take the role. If they're expecting you to hit this $3 million, and the ramp up period is 3 months, and you're getting into a new area or a territory that's a rebuild territory because the previous rep was a dumpster fire, do you really think you're going to build it up in 3 months? No, it's not going to happen. I hope some of you do it, and there probably are some reps that have those, miracle turnarounds. But the majority of reps, that's not happening, guys. It takes a long time, especially in the hospital space. And you got to find out all the things we talked about, all the challenges, and then make a realistic, have a realistic conversation with the hiring manager. Be like, well, to be honest with you, I have experience. I'm speaking with other reps, my own experiences. I think it's going to take me at least a year to turn this around. If they're okay with that and you guys come to an agreement, okay, maybe you can move forward. But if they're, no, sorry, Joe, we need this going 3 to 6 months tops. Guys, you don't want to jump into that and overpromise and underdeliver, because I see it happen all the time. Reps will say anything sometimes to get the job. They get the job and they're not going to forget what you said. Trust me, guys. If you talk a big game, yeah, you might be able to talk your way into getting a position, but you got to make sure you deliver after that, because what's going to happen, 2-3 quarters down the line, you're going to be that same guy that's looking for another job because they got rid of you. So set expectations, be realistic. Don't be Superman. So again, next one, we want to talk about that historical performance. You don't want to just hear about the top performer stories, guys, because a lot of hiring managers, they will do that. They talk about the top performers. They'll talk about, Susan Smith. She's been making $500,000 a year the last 4 years. Everything's about Susan. And you start going, okay, well, that's great about Susan. Who else? Where else do we stand? Out of the 10 reps in your region, how are they doing? And you want to talk about that. And again, don't be afraid to get off the top performers, because you want to always associate with top performers. You're doing your due diligence and finding out exactly how everyone is doing, because these conversations a lot of times do go in that direction. So some of the questions and data you want to ask for in this situation, you want to find out the last 2 or 3 years of territory performance. Again, the performance of the prior 2 reps. So not just the previous rep, but the one before them. How were they doing too? The average attainment across the team. So out of 10, 12 reps, what is the average rep doing? How did that manager do is another way of asking it. Did you hit quota last year? Why not? If they didn't, if they were at 70%, it's obviously a problem. That means there's more than just one person bringing that number down. What is going on in those other territories? Are they all bad reps? Again, this affects the manager directly. That's this person's number. So they're going to want to have that. They're going to want to hit 100% too, because that's how they get paid. So ask, what is the average across the board? Or what did you hit last quarter or last year? What was your regional goal attainment? The ramp time for first meaningful win. Okay. Again, this is along the lines of getting it up to speed, like we were talking about before. What are the expectations? And what is the history? How long does it typically take someone to come in from a completely, empty territory, or, similar territories that were in the similar position to yours? How long does that typically take? All right. So guys, don't try to do the math and say, well, if it takes everyone else a year, it's only going to take me 6 months. Be realistic. If they say a year, it's probably going to take you a year or maybe more. So you want to make sure you find out what that ramp up period is. And then the retention rates. What's the retention rate of reps? Just straight up ask it. What's the retention rate here? And if they're telling you they're going, 50% retention every year, obviously a big red flag, guys. 10, 15, 20%. Okay, that happens. Sometimes people get into jobs, they're just not good. They do find other opportunities, making better pay. Sometimes they're just geography challenges that happen. I mean, there's many things that can happen. Or sometimes there's just changes in the reimbursement law, which we're going to talk about, which can cause people to leave too. But finding out what that retention rate is very important. So at the end of the day, you're less interested in that President's Club winner than in a solid professional can reliably do. So you want to make sure it's not just Susan Smith. It's what can the average professional, what are they doing? Again, you're not comparing yourself to them. You're just finding out all the information so you can make an educated decision on to take this role or not. This is a very important one, guys. Number 5, know whether you're inheriting momentum or a cleanup. So, guys, I've been there. I mean, I had a buddy. I love him to death. He was an awesome, awesome guy. And I remember he got promoted years ago. And before he got promoted, he had one of his biggest accounts give him a monster purchase order for, a huge quantity of our product. So he crushed his number. He was getting promoted anyway, made a big bonus. Now the person coming into that territory was left with a dumpster fire. So just to put the numbers in, so you guys understood, this was probably like a $750,000 territory. But since they made such a large bulk order, he essentially hit right around $1 million. So now they're always going to increase your number. So now the number was like 1.1 million. And it really was like a $800,000 territory. So this person came in, they pre-purchased a lot of product. So that means this new rep had to get new surgeries just to cover the previous purchase. So it doesn't even count towards him. They had products sitting on the shelves waiting now to be used. So you had to do 10 procedures just to get back to zero and start over again. I hope that makes sense. James, that makes sense? I know it's a little confusing. You're probably not even listening to me, but that's okay.
Kind of. I was trying to follow, but it was
whole point being, they basically said, it's like, I'll use like a fat ass with the two of us. Say I got 10 pizzas that I already put in the freezer that I already purchased. So that pizza company isn't going to get a new purchase now for a while, because we got to go through these 10 pizzas first, then we'll start ordering again. So we're going to use the product that's already there first.
That I get the analogy. Unless you're dealing with me, Joe, I don't really do leftovers too much.
All right. Well, you get the point. I know you like cheesesteaks, so I should have said cheesesteaks.
Even cheesesteaks, got to be fresh.
Yeah, boy.
Fresh.
But you get the point. Is that
yes, I get the point.
This person thinks this territory is growing, and meanwhile, they already have to do a huge number of business just to get back to zero. So, guys, these are things you need to find out. This could happen. It does happen a lot. So that's a very, it's a unique situation for someone to be able to get such a big purchase order before everything, before someone else starts and get a promotion at the same time. And again, it doesn't happen every day, but these different situations separately happen all the time. So here's another possible scenario. And this could be, a good scenario where you have, a healthy install base with upside. That's a really good position to be in, where you have guys out there, they're using you, but you could just drive more. So at least you get that base of business where you're not coming into a completely empty territory. That's a good position to be in. Broken relationships and service issues. Now, this could go both ways. So sometimes you guys could say, oh man, I don't want that. Guy just buried the territory, and now you got all these pissed off customers coming to you, and you got to put that together. Yeah, that could be a very bad situation to be in, but it also could be a good opportunity. Because one of the things that I always, would say when customers were pissed off at my predecessor, that's why I'm here. It's just that simple. We understand. We know what, so-and-so did, but that's why they brought me in to fix it. And whatever challenges you were having, you're not going to have them anymore. I'm here now. So please let me know what I can do to solve this. And sometimes, guys, it's not that easy. They're still going to scream at you. They're still not going to use you. But over time, that could be a huge, huge turnaround, because obviously they liked something about your company to want to use you in the first place. And a bad rep, once you get them out of the way, could be a great situation, because they could have destroyed that territory, brought the number down. Now you have nowhere to go but up. So that could be a good position. Don't always jump the gun and think because you had a shitty rep in there that you're going to be shitty too, or you're in a bad situation. No, you could fix it and just take it, to go nowhere but up. And this is on the same token, lost accounts that need to be won back. It's basically a similar, situation. Accounts neglected because of turnover. So this does happen. This is very real, where yes, you had a predecessor, good or bad. That doesn't mean that they were just here 2 weeks ago. They could have been fired or moved on to another company 6 months ago. And it took the company that long to get someone else in there. So now you have a lot of these accounts that just aren't, they haven't been no one's been talking to them for a while. So you got to grow that back up. That could be challenging, but it also could be an opportunity. So it might take you a little ramp up time to get there, but sometimes that could be a good situation where there's low volume in these accounts just because no one was there. And a lot of times you walk back in there, the customers just realize, like, are you going to be here? Are you going to be able to service us? Because we did love your product. It's just that we didn't have someone here for a while. So that's why we didn't order. No, I'm going to be here. I'm taking over. I'm not going anywhere. And you could ramp up quickly in that situation. So some of the questions: are you inheriting existing business? Are the key accounts producing now? That's very, very important. Are these just one or two little straggler accounts? Are these big accounts that are still producing? So if they're still producing without a rep there, that is a monster opportunity, guys. That means they are really bought into your company, the product, and everything you have going on there. Without someone there, that means that's a great opportunity. If they say yes, then I'd be very interested in that role. Are there service, clinical, pricing, or contracting issues I need to fix first? Now, service, you'll be able to fix if you provide good service. Clinical, yes, you could provide much better clinical value. Pricing, not so easy because you could be outpriced. Your product could be outpriced from the competition. And trust me, your company, very few companies are going to want you to go in there with your knee-jerk reaction. Your first offer is to drop price. They don't want to do that. And to be honest with you guys, when I started in this industry, I used to be pissed off the companies like, we're the most expensive. We would get more use if we drop our price. And it's not true, guys. You'll find out with a lot of these doctors. You can have $1 million product and tell them it only costs $10, and they'll say that's still too much. So you have to show the value first. If the value's not there, it doesn't matter what it's priced at. Now, again, of course, there's situations. If you're 5 times what the rest of the competition is, it's hard for them to justify using you. But sometimes just being a little bit more expensive, again, that's what you're hired for. You got to sell the benefits and the value of not only the product and yourself, so they're willing to pay more. So pricing, you might have a little wiggle room. But again, a lot of times don't think you're going to turn miracles if you're that much more than the rest of the competition. And then contracting, guys, if contracts are already in place, I don't know how great reps are to get the hospitals to break those contracts. I mean, I've seen it done. It is possible, but typically a contracting issue is the most difficult to overcome because that's something that's already in place and it's very hard to turn it around. And then here's a very, very important one, guys. Have the best accounts already been carved out into house or strategic accounts? Very important. So you could be walking in to a quote unquote $5 million territory, but the majority of those house accounts are house accounts. So for some of you who don't know what a house account is, that means you're not going to get paid on that account. The company keeps those commission dollars for the company. They don't pay a rep out on that. They'll call it a house account. And I've been in those situations, and that sucks. So you want to make sure, are all these big accounts, are they your accounts or are they house accounts? Are all the big hospitals in your territory that you feel you have great relationships with, even smaller accounts? You can outright ask. I have very good relationships at NYU. I have great relationships at Sinai, at Hackensack. And if they say, that's great, all those are house accounts. That means they're already getting business. They can have an internal, person just running the account, from an inside sales role, or, a manager is just touching, base once a month. You want to make sure, are they house or are these open accounts for you to own in your territory? Very important question. Let me see here. Okay, here's a very important one, guys. The payer and reimbursement environment. So all these, med sales arenas, device, diagnostics, wound care, specialty pharma, DME, the pharmaceutical, they're all affected by coverage. All right. And you'll notice that once Medicare starts to drop coverages, they very rarely go back up. It's usually they go in one direction. And once they start dropping, all the other, large payers out there, they're going to start dropping their reimbursements too. So you want to make sure it's a strong reimbursement environment and find out what they are getting reimbursed, how profitable this is. How profitable is it for the physician or the hospital? Because I've been in those situations too, where hospitals actually lose a ton of money on our products. And then it's going to take only a quick period of time for hospitals to start realizing, hey, we can't use this product. It's too expensive. Or we're not getting reimbursed enough. And this happens a lot in the surgery center space too, where the reimbursement is going to be different in a surgery center, and it could be better or worse. Sometimes it's worse. So they don't do the procedures at the surgery center. They do it at the hospital. And it sometimes makes it more difficult to get more procedures done in the hospital because of more red tape. That happens. So you need to find out that payer mix and what's going on. So questions to ask: are there reimbursement headwinds in this territory? Are major payers favorable? Are there regional coverage differences? This happens sometimes, guys, where from one regional area to another, the reimbursements are actually different. So depending on where you are in the country, it could actually affect how that product gets reimbursed. And then this huge one to know, guys: are denials, prior auths, or coding issues slowing sales? So for some of you out there, especially with a prior authorization, that's a prior auth. That happens, say, for instance, in pharmaceutical selling a pharmaceutical drug, where to even give you this drug to this patient, they need a prior authorization. They need to get approval basically from the insurance company to be able to give you this drug. It's not like a doctor just writes a prescription and goes, here you go, Mrs. Jones, go ahead, you're good. That's all they need to do. No, someone from his staff has to call up, get a prior authorization from the insurance company. Once they get that, then they're able to write that prescription. Guys, it takes effort. And believe me, if there's other products that are comparable and they don't have to get a prior auth, guess what? They're going to use those drugs too first. So you need to make sure, if this is going to add extra work, it's not an insurmountable task by any means. A lot of companies, they need prior authorizations, and there's a lot of hospitals, a lot of doctors' offices that are used to getting it. They usually have someone in the office that's their job. They just get prior auths all day long. So it definitely is achievable. But again, it's another step. So if you make it more complicated, it's going to be that much more challenging to sell your product. But I'm going to pause right here because I know it went a little long. James, any questions from the crowd?
Yeah, we got a couple, Joe.
Awesome.
We got a couple. I got Marcus Whitfield. If a recruiter tells me a territory is wide open with tons of potential, what should that actually translate to in real terms?
Well, you got to ask more questions. What does wide open mean? I mean, wide open with tons of potential. Again, why is it wide open? That would be my first question. Always want to know, why is there an opening? And it could be wide open. Wide open means nothing to me. Marcus, I think it's a great question, but that's a statement that truly means nothing. It's wide open. Yeah, no shit, it's wide open. It's an open territory. Why is it wide open? What does wide open mean? Because that means something different to me. It can mean many different things. So I would want to know, why is there an opening? Did the person get promoted? Are they still there? Would you be able to, what did the previous 2 reps do? Not just this last rep, but the one before. Why is there an opening? That's the first question you need to ask, because everything else that seemed like a very, generic statement by that company, you need to dig deeper. I can't give you advice only because, unless you feel free to share more information, but just based on that statement, I need to know. The company needs to tell you, what does that mean? Why is there an opening?
I got Gregory Mancini. Is it normal for a company to refuse to share territory revenue numbers during the interview?
It is common. I don't think you need to know you know, the exact breakdown per account. Like say, for instance, how much business are you doing at Mount Sinai? I mean, they don't have to give you that information, but if they're not going to give you any information about where they are percent to quota, a percentage, if they're not giving you percentages, if they're not giving you volume, it's a little bit of a red flag. I mean, definitely percentage to quota and telling you the health status of a territory. If they're unwilling to give you information, guys, take that as a red flag. Because they should be very transparent. And the best reps out there, they're not going to take these roles. They're too experienced. They've been through this. They're obviously high achievers for a reason. And if companies are unwilling to tell you that, that's always very, again, they can't tell you everything. They're not going to tell you the breakdown of every account. They don't need to do all that, but just as simply, what is the quota? What is the percentage of quota attainment? They should definitely be able to tell you that. If they can't answer that, then I would suggest that, this might not be the right move.
We got Thomas Rutledge. If a territory has had three reps in 2 years, is that automatically disqualifying or worth a deeper look?
It's definitely worth a deeper look because 3 reps in 2 years that's pretty high turnover. And, again, there could be a rep that got promoted at the beginning. There could be a rep that left for a higher salary somewhere else. 3 reps in 2 years, though, that means they're not even trying to keep that talent. So I would find out, are these 3 reps that left? If 3 reps left, then that's a red flag. That means they're not even if companies everyone's paying more, there's better opportunities elsewhere if they're leaving. If a rep got fired, another one got promoted, okay. But again, what happened with each rep? I would get a deeper breakdown on what it's each individual rep, what caused them to leave. And then you'd be able to make a decision. But it is enough to say, okay, I need more information and dig deeper.
Let's see. Vanessa Chamberlain, should I be more worried about a territory with no existing customers or one with all locked in contracts?
I would definitely say a locked in contract. That's definitely more concerning because there's nowhere to go. A completely vacant territory could be, sky's the limit. You can blow that number out and do really, really well. If it's already locked in with all contracts everywhere, what are you going to do if you can't get into new hospitals and really expand that territory? That's a tough position to be in. I would much rather have the open territory, and that's where I would feel more confident in my skills to make things happen, as opposed to a place that already has contracts in place left and right. I mean, basically, what do they need you for? To add to that, there could be contracts in place that do set you up. Because, for instance, there's doctors that are using you. That doesn't mean they're using you 100% of the time. So, for instance, I have experience in cardiology. So a doctor could be using us for ablations and say, yeah, Dr. Jones uses us for ablations. Okay. What ablations does he use us for? Oh, he just uses us for VTs. All right. Well, then I know VTs are not that common. He might do 30 ablations a month and do 2 VTs. So I know I only got a small percentage of his business. So the goal is to increase that utilization. That's the important thing. That's how reps really grow, where the good reps know that start working and put your focus on the doctors that are already committed to you. And now you just got to expand that usage. That's how you really grow a territory. A lot of reps think, I got Dr. Jones already. Now I got to go after Dr. Smith. And meanwhile, you spend all this time with Dr. Smith when he really has no intention of using you. He's locked in with the other rep, with the other company for whatever reason. And if you spent more time with Dr. Jones, you could increase that utilization from 5-10% to 50%. So you need to know that too. That's very important. If someone's using you, if they're in an account, you're going to hear these terms. Yeah, that's great. But what percentage? And then you got to figure out what's the upside potential, because that's how you can really blow your number out, is expanding the business that you already have.
I got Tay Tay XOXO. What's the move when you get offered a territory that the manager keeps calling challenging?
Well, that's a red flag. What, and I mean a red flag that they're being honest, which is great. What does challenging mean? Is that contract issues? Again, remember at the beginning of the call, I explained that situation in Boston where locked out of 80% of the accounts. No matter what we do, we're not getting in there. How am I going to overcome that? That's challenging. Is it challenging because the last rep was a nightmare and a lot of the doctors stopped using you? Now you got to go in and rebuild. Okay, that's challenging, but it's doable. You can overcome that. Is it challenging because of reimbursements? They're not getting paid on this product. I mean, this happens. They literally sometimes they stop paying, and patients have to pay out of pocket to get a procedure done or to get a test done. Once that happens, guys, it's over. You're not gonna continue to be successful in that environment. So you need to find out, what does challenging mean. That's great that they're being upfront, but you got to go deeper, guys. It's just like when you're speaking to your physicians. Remember this too, guys. If you're asking the right questions, don't look at it as, I don't want to piss them off and ask too many questions. Screw that. You're here to pick your next career move. You need to ask questions. And they're also evaluating you on how you probe. This is your chance to probe. So you probe, ask questions. That's what you should be doing anyway with your doctors, with your customers. You should be digging deeper. If a doctor says to you, Joe, you know what? I just like using another product. I haven't used yours. Oh, okay. What are you going to just leave and go, well, he said he doesn't like using us and he uses the other company, so I'm never going to change his mind. No, you got to dig deeper. Why? Why are they using that product? What about it do they like? Have they even been, has anyone even talked to them about your product? When's the last time someone's been in here? You could have 50 advances in your product that changes the product altogether. And find out if they didn't have any experiences, they could have these notions because their friends used it and had a bad result. So you dig deeper, guys. They're going to respect that because you're probing and showing what you would do anyway in a sales call. So remember, this is your life, your career. You need to get the information. Don't be embarrassed or feel like you don't want to insult them. And if they're unwilling to give you a lot of information, like we were talking about before, that's a red flag. You might just go, sorry, without this, I need to know. And, you're just going to move on. That's all.
I got Brandon Ferreira. Is it weird to ask for the last 3 years of territory numbers before accepting an offer?
I don't think yes, I do think it's weird. If you're going to ask like that, there's a difference between asking like that where you want them to print out all this material and send it to you. They don't have to do that. But I would just say, okay, I just want to go over, the territory history a little bit here, so I have a better understanding of what's going on. How is it done historically? Where was the rep at last year? Well, Joe, don't forget, we got rid of that rep. So she was only at 35%. Okay, understand. The rep before that, the year before. Oh, yeah, that rep was another terrible rep, was at 25%. Okay. What about the rep, the past 3 years ago? Same thing, terrible rep, 25%. Okay, guys, odds are there's not 3 bad reps in a row. It's, it's like, I'm going to give you a movie reference, James, and you should know this one.
Let's
from
hear
Casino.
One of my all-time favorites.
Remember when Sam Rothstein gets pissed off at the dumb casino manager because the slot machine, the slot machine hits jackpot 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
And he's like, if it happens once, it's 1 in a billion. It happens twice, it's like 1 in a trillion. 3 times, it can't mathematically happen.
Yep.
So he fires him because it's impossible. Okay. It's similar here. You could get 1 bad rep, 2 in a row. Okay. 3 in a row that all are doing terrible. Guys, the math just doesn't make sense. That's very unlikely. So that is a huge red flag. But that's the way to ask it. Don't just say, I need to get the past 3 years of territory performance, email to me, or I need you to tell me about the past 3 years, just like that. A, it sounds demanding. B, they don't owe you shit. And C, there's just the way I described it, that's the proper way to ask it. And again, if they don't want to share it, then that's a red flag. But if you're just asking, I need 3 years, of territory performance sent to me, no, that's not going to go over well. You need to ask it in that different way.
Math ain't math, and Joe.
No, exactly. Exactly.
Daniel Whitmore, what metrics beyond gross territory revenue should candidates be evaluating when assessing earning potential in a new role?
Say that. I'm sorry. Say it again.
What metrics beyond gross territory revenue should candidates be evaluating when assessing earning potential in a new role?
Well, yeah. I mean, gross territory revenue, that could be, just one aspect. You need to know the revenue could be 5 million a year, right? Is that 20% of the goal? Because if it's 20% of the goal, who cares? That means you're not hitting your number. You're not going to get paid on that. So what is the quota? What percentage of the quota attainment is that number? That's the important thing, guys. And then also, are you getting paid from $1? So you could have a $5 million territory, but you get paid 1% up to, 5 million. And then you get a 10% kicker of everything above 5 million. So that you need to find out more details. Is it just, you get a certain percentage for everything you sell? Typically, you'll get a certain percentage. And then after you hit your quota, they'll get a hyper bonus, meaning that your percentage will go up. So you need to find that out. What is the quota, and what are they doing to quota? And then how are the different metrics paid out based on whatever that goal attainment that you hit? That's more important than just the flat out revenue. For instance, guys, when people talk about on their resume, they sold 10 million of whatever product. Okay. Was it 10 million in real estate? That's not bad. But I know many people that sell 30, 40, 50 million a year in real estate. 10 million in a medical device territory could sound great, but is everyone else doing 20 million? So you need to find out more information than just a straight revenue number. What does that mean? Go a step deeper and you'll be able to see that, if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I got Robert Kingsley. What signals indicate that a territory has structural problems that no rep, regardless of skill, will be able to overcome quickly?
Contracts, by far number one, and reimbursement. Those two, guys, you're not going to be able to overcome that. If you can't, and lastly, GPOs, which kind of fall under contracts anyway. But basically, if you're not on the hospital GPO, they're not going to be able to use you. So just so you guys understand that, it's like playing at a country club, playing golf. You might know the starter, you might be friends, buddies sneak you on. The starter, turns a blind eye. They let you play around without a member. And then you go back the next day, they're going to be like, Joe, I'm sorry, you can't. You have to be a member to play here. It's the same thing with GPOs. They might be able to get a one-off approval to use a product because the doctor's really demanding to use it, because they're going to pay a higher price if they're not on that GPO. But if you want consistent usage, you have to be a member. You have to get on that GPO or they're not going to be able to keep working with you guys. So that is huge. Other contracts that they can have locked in for 2-3 years. Again, if it's not on that GPO, if you're shut out, very few tricks are going to help you get back in. And then lastly, the reimbursements. If they're losing money, they're not going to keep using something. It's just that simple. Guys, none of us would do this. If any of you have businesses out there, if you're going to lose money, you're not going to do it. You're going to pick a cheaper product. Some of you have, if you have, any budgets to do a renovation or whatever, if you want to, buy anything and it's out of your budget, you just don't buy it. So it's the same with the hospital. So those three factors, I would say, are the biggest non-starters for me.
Bradley Norris, We got when a territory has strong corporate IDN contracts already in place, how should a candidate evaluate the actual room they have to influence revenue?
Yeah, and that's where you have deeper conversations with the hiring manager about, like we talked about before, how much utilization do you have? What is the breakdown too for each doctor? So for instance, if Hackensack is using you, that's when you say Hackensack is using you, does that mean how many doctors at Hackensack? Well, Joe, only one. Okay. It's Dr. Jones. All right. Well, how many cases does he do a month? He only does one, but he really likes the product. All right, guys, then you have a lot of upside. Or if it's the vice versa, where Hackensack's using you, we got all 50 cardiologists are all using the product 100% of the time. Where are you going to go? You have nowhere to go but down. So ask more questions. How many doctors? How much percent utilization? What cases are they using it? So if they're only using it for one case and they do 20 cases, you have a lot of room to grow. So you need to find out what the percentage utilization and how many physicians in that hospital or account that are using you, and then you'll be able to make a better decision.
We got Green Thumb Gale. What happens if you take a territory and find out the accounts hate the company within month one?
Well, again, you got to fix it. Why? Why do they hate the company? Is it the previous rep? Because the previous rep problem, again, guys, you're there to fix it. And you could tell them that right away, like we talked about earlier. And that could be an easy fix sometimes not. Sometimes they're so pissed off they don't even want to see reps. I don't think after 1 month, because a lot of times reps get a little jumpy and they'll take what one or two doctors says and then look to, oh, this is a dumpster fire. I got to get out of here. No one likes this company. Guys, you got to give it more time than a month. If you're starting a new role, I mean, you don't want to leave after a month because it's going to look shitty on your resume. And it looks like you were unwilling to fight when you go on to your new company. Everything's not going to be perfect there either. You want to see how you turn it around. So dig deeper. Is this just a one-off, two-off? Again, it's like going to a restaurant. You got one person that says it sucks, and then 50 people say, I love it there. Are you going to base it on that one person? What if you have 30 customers that say they love your company? It's a great product. But anything after a month, I would not give too much weight and look to leave, because in the end, you don't know what else you're getting into. And to have that on your resume is not going to look good that you bounced after a month because of, a couple customers talking negative. I think we have time for one more, James.
Yeah, we got nothing but net 27. What's the real difference between a turnaround territory and one that's just broken?
So one that's just broken to me that was more of a expansion territory where there wasn't any business in there to begin with. And they just expanded, basically an empty area. They built it up from scratch. That's what that means to me. A turnaround territory is a territory that was doing poorly, was at 20% to quota, and now you turned it around to now you're hitting 110, 120% to quota. That's someone that came in there and fixed whatever issues were currently going on by the previous rep. We're able to come in and turn it around. That's the difference to me. One is completely hasn't been touched yet. One has been touched and has been tarnished, but someone came in and fixed it.
That's it, Joe. That's all I got today.
Awesome, man. Well, again, thank you, James.
Always.
A lot of great questions. I hope you like my casino reference.
It's your best one yet, Joe. It's the best one yet.
Thank you. I know. See, now I know what movies you like, and I'm just going to pick a reference that you're always going to say it's my favorite, my best one, just because.
Well, no, that's not true, because let's be real. Devil Wears Prada and Pitch Perfect are chick flicks, and I would have to break my own balls if I don't break your balls about that.
Oh, buddy. All right. So no more Devil Wears Prada. I know I give too many of those, but anyway, thank you guys. Great questions. Again, guys, the whole point is do your due diligence. Don't just make a judgment. Don't give one statement that is given to you by a hiring manager, or just because the previous rep left, go, Joe, the previous rep left, I don't think I'm going to take that role. No, the whole point I'm trying to teach today, guys, is dig deeper. Find out what's really going on. The worst thing you want to do is just take a job because it's a job. I get it. We got bills to pay. If you're not making money, I get all that, guys. But do your due diligence. Majority of these companies, remember, the hiring managers more often than not don't want to hide shit from you because they know you're going to find out eventually and you're going to leave. They don't want that. They want you to stay. They want a committed person. So don't be afraid to ask the questions and find out more before you make the decision. So I appreciate that, guys. Again, as always, just as a reminder, RepPath Academy, guys, we say it every week. Go on RepPath.com. There's the link on the screen. Stop wasting time. We can help you break in. And for any of you lobby members, please give the promo code Licata. You'll see that pop up at the bottom of the screen too. LICATA. There it is. Just give that promo code when you reach out to me to sign up so I can give you additional discounts. Other than that, guys, this is a great call. Have a great week. And I'll see you guys all on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Take care, guys.